inshallah today let's just talk about some final lessons before we end things until next year essentially. So just a quick rundown of the things we learned from Imam Hussein alayhi salam and also some things that we can take home with us. So firstly, one of the first things that we learn about Imam Hussein alayhi salam is that we learn how the world really is. It's where even the good people are betrayed by this world. This world is this dunya. So the nature of this world is that it just betrays, and it's always in a case where you can't rely on this world to always treat you nicely, to always treat you the best, even if you're the best person amongst them. So we know this with Imam Hussein alayhi salam. He was the best person amongst the people, but he was treated the worst by this world and by the people. So what Imam Hussein alayhi salam did, the important thing about Imam Hussein and how he treated this world is that he detached himself in a way that he didn't let the world affect his morals, how he is on the inside, but he let himself, his morals and everything that he believes affect the world around him. So how does that translate? He went against Yazid even though he knew he would be killed. He went against all the evil people even though he knew he would probably be alone by himself. He didn't hold back. And because of his morals, because his central guiding force was his morals, he was able to do everything. He was able to have all this bravery that we see from him. So what he did was he detached himself from the world in a way that he was think of it this way. He didn't think of this world as important, but what he did see as important was that our duty as Muslims, our rights to Allah, what we have to do to Allah. So he wasn't thinking about this world, he was only thinking it through the lens of Allah. What do we need to do for the sake of Allah? So the other thing was, while he was reasoning using this world, while he was reasoning using his morals, his internal beliefs and all these other things, the basic tenets of faith, the qalb and everything, the other people, the people against Imam Hussein, were using the logic of this world. They were seeing things only from the perspective of this world. And that's why they struggled to understand him. Because they saw things only from this world, they couldn't understand. Why would he fight us if he knows he's going to lose? They couldn't understand. Why would he bring his family to oppose? Why would he bring everyone with him? Why would he try to oppose us even if he knows he's going to lose? And because of their reasoning, they couldn't understand why he was doing these actions, why he was praying. Even on the day of the battlefield, when they were trying to kill him, he himself he stopped the battle for a moment just to pray. And they couldn't understand that because they weren't seeing it from the same perspective. At the same time, if we keep seeing the world from the perspective as looking at it as the final product, the final thing that we have to aim for, the final thing that we have to reach, we've got to get the best job, we've got to get the most money, all these other things. These things are important to an extent. Obviously, you've got to get a good job. It's working hard is part of Islam as well. But it's not the final goal. And because of that, if you change your perspective from seeing the world as the final goal, but rather the thing that's behind it, what is after this world? Obviously it's Jannah, it's the hereafter, it's Allah. All of these things we should consider. Instead of looking at the world, we see through the world, we see through it to what's behind it. And if we approach our lives from that perspective, then we sort of see everything in this world as a tool for the akhirah. But we don't see everything in this world as the final product, as the final goal. If you can sort of begin to understand it from that perspective, then you'll inshallah be able to understand the actions of Imam Hussein a lot better. And furthermore, you'll be able to understand the actions of Imam Mahdi, Ajala Faraj al-Sharif, inshallah when he comes out. If you view the world as the final product, you won't be able to understand what he's doing, why he's doing that. And as a result, you won't be able to follow him properly. You won't be able to do the good things that you need to do, and you won't even be able to recognize him unless you follow these. Unless you have the same perspective as the Imam, which is the perspective of morals, which is the perspective of truth, all of these things. These are far more important than the whole world. So some important lessons we learned from Imam Hussein alayhi salam throughout his whole journey and throughout Muharram and everything is some personal things. For example, the spirit of monotheism, which is essentially only believing in Allah. But at the same time, it's also obedience only to Allah. The people that were fighting against Imam Hussein had obedience to Yazid, not to Allah. So could you really say that they were monotheistic or that they only believed in one God? If you put Allah second, then what does that mean? What does that even interpret into your religion, into your faith? How can you call yourself Muslim? The other thing as well is that turning away from your own desires, from your own, what you read, what you want, what your body wants, but instead seeing the final goal after it. Submission to the will of Allah. In a case, it's trusting in Allah. Imam Hussein brought his entire family, and it takes a lot of trust to put his entire family, even though he knows a lot of them will die, he will probably die. Obviously, these things, they worry him, but he put his faith in Allah, and he put only what he needed to do, and he did that. Simple as that. Another thing as well is bravery and chivalry. Quite often, some people, they know what the truth is, they know what it is, and they know what the right thing to do is, but they hold back, they're worried. Why are they worried? Because of this world. They're worried about their position, how they'll look in front of their friends, how they'll look in front of other people. Another important thing as well was forgiveness and clemency. Forgiveness, not just for your friends as well, but also understand forgiveness of how Allah forgives. In the final day, on Yom Ashura, what happened? How many people joined Imam Hussein's side? So up until that point, these people, they spent their lives, some of them spent a long portion of their lives going against the Imam. But at the final second, they turned and they joined Imam Hussein and they were forgiven. At the same time, this is us right now. Right now, maybe we think that we're in this horrible situation and that we'll never change. But these people did a change essentially from killing the Imam to fighting for him and going to Jannah. So these people, they did that change within the span of what, 30 minutes? And everything changed like that. It's the same thing with us, but at the same time also consider this. We can also do that same change but in the opposite direction. You should always be worried about what if you do something really bad that will push you to the complete other side. So that's why you should always be careful about your religion and the decisions you make, because even 30 minutes can change your life and your akhirah for eternity. Another important thing that we learned was to our community. Sometimes we have to put the needs of our community above our own. Sometimes we just have to, for example, here's a simple thing. So imagine two people, two groups, they get into an argument, and you're in one of the groups. And the other group, they get into an argument with you, and it's up to you to maybe forgive them or not. If you forgive them, then maybe that community can come back together. Obviously, perhaps they've done something wrong to you, but inshallah, if you just forgive them, then that community can get back together. So what happens? It's more of a case of like, you should always view yourself, not just by yourself, but also how will my actions affect my community? Sometimes if you do something wrong and your little brother sees it or someone else sees it, then what does that mean? Now you've affected your brother. You've also affected perhaps one of your cousins or someone else that looks up to you. And another important thing is that in forbidding the bad things and staying with the good things, a lot of times, especially at our age, our friends will have these issues. Sometimes they'll tell you, they'll want you to do something haram. They'll be like, oh, let's not pray, or let's not do this, or I don't need to fast today. All of these things. It shouldn't be the case where you come up to your friends and you tell them, you're terrible, you're a bad person or anything. But you should also tell them that this action itself is bad. We should pray, and you should always encourage people to do good things. Eventually, for example, here's one thing you can do. If someone is talking bad about someone else behind their back, you can just say, listen, this is ghibah, which means backbiting. This is bad, let's not say this. Or don't worry about that, just try to divert it away. And this way you've prevented something, and over a long enough time, people around you will start to change as well. But you shouldn't expect your friends as well to change overnight. It's just a consistent behavior, and you shouldn't do it in a forceful way, because Islam is not about forcing others to be obedient to you. And the other important thing as well is that, like, realizing that often the numbers of how many people are against you, how many people are for you, they don't matter. The only thing that matters is your religion and Allah. How many people out there don't even believe in God? How many people out there don't even believe in anything? Those people, it doesn't matter about them, because Allah doesn't care about the numbers. Why would He care about the numbers? He only cares about the individual person, about each and individual person. Whether He's given everyone the truth, but it's up to them to take it. If everyone takes it, alhamdulillah. But if not, you should understand that it's not the case. You shouldn't view yourself also as being the person that's sort of like, oh, it's just me. Maybe I'm the weird one. Maybe I'm the only one that prays. There will be a time when no one prays, and there'll be only one person praying, for example. What then? Is all of a sudden the religion different? It's not. You shouldn't consider numbers as the most important thing. So now, finally, some final things. Our good deeds are habits. So one hadith from Imam alayhi salam says, the little that you perform continuously is weightier than the great amount that you perform odiously, which means just once off. So if you consistently do something good, it's a lot better than doing one thing good and that's it, you forget about it. The reason behind that is essentially because, one, that good deed begins to affect your personality. And when it affects your personality, then it changes you as a person and it makes you perform more good deeds. But if you do a good deed just once, I'm not saying don't do good deeds just once, but what I'm getting at is that you shouldn't be ashamed to do these little deeds. Even if you enter a room and you say Bismillah, that's still something. And if you do it every time, it's almost like you remember Allah every time you enter inside a room. And these habits, they build into us and they affect us. Another thing as well is that there's also some negative traits that they also affect us over a long enough time. One of these negative traits, especially true for us, for especially people in our community, is that the issue of anger. Everyone gets angry all the time. A hadith by Imam alayhi salam says, aggression removes Allah's favor. So what does that mean? Allah favors you, He'll give you all these good things. But if you're constantly angry, it'll remove it. Why? Because what happens is anger not forces you, but it almost makes you temporarily insane, where you don't know what to do, and you just end up doing what shaitan wants you to do. It says, whoever draws the sword of aggression will be killed by it. Whoever is always angry will always be defeated by that same anger. If you're always angry, it doesn't help you, and it doesn't help anyone. So Imam Ali says, remedy, fix your anger with silence and your carnal desires through your reason. So when he says fix your anger with silence, he doesn't mean just be quiet and then keep angry inside and you don't say anything. But just think about, why are you angry? Does this really matter? Quite often you find it doesn't matter, because the only things that do matter are the outcome, these things. So obviously silence and just control it. Think about, why are you mad? Why is this important to you? What can be different? And then make excuses for the other person as well. And finally, this is the most important thing, that nobody starts off perfectly. Quite often, you spend your whole life trying to get better, inshallah. And that should be your aim. It's more of a case of just trying to be better than you were yesterday. So he who takes account of his soul will understand his defects and know his sins. So what does that mean? If every day you take account of yourself, you say, what did I do today? What was good today? What did I do that was bad today? When you do that, and then you try to fix each of these issues, for example, let's say, oh, I prayed a little bit late today. Tomorrow, inshallah, I'll try to pray on time, or a little bit better, or earlier. Every single day, if you do that, then you'll eventually get better. The important thing is not to be too disheartened to say, oh, how can I be a good Muslim if I don't even pray? I only pray once a week or something like that. If that's the case, try to pray as many prayers as you can, and then work from there. The other thing as well is that it says, he who takes account of his self prospers. So imagine you spend your whole life getting yourself better and better. So you take account of yourself, you say, what did I do wrong today? What did I do right today? Once you do that every single day, imagine you do that for years. By the end of those years, you'll be probably a really good person. And you wouldn't even notice it, so you wouldn't become proud. And another important thing to say, and this is the final thing, is that Allah only takes your soul when it's best for you. So He doesn't take your soul when you could have done more good or you could have done a lot more things. He takes your soul when it's best for you, because He is the most merciful. He doesn't want everyone to go to hell. And He also wants people to go to the highest level of Jannah that's possible. Because He sees everything, He takes their soul when it's best for them. So the important thing to say here is that someone else has essentially said that you die when you stop trying to improve yourself. After you reach that peak, that good time of your life where it's essentially Allah decides to take your soul, that's when you stop taking account of yourself, that's when Allah takes your soul. You see? That's when you die. So the important thing is to constantly make sure that you're always trying to keep track of yourself. How am I doing? How is my salah? Keep improving that. And then inshallah, Allah willing, you'll go to Jannah. And yeah. Obviously it's not that simple, but it's just a one day step at a time. أفلح من صلى على محمد وآل محمد.